Welcome to Lovespell's podcast. I'm Lovespell, hoodoo practitioner and conjurer of root work, diviner in tarot, light worker, spiritual healer, and advisor, and most of all, I'm sent to you here directly by my ancestors and guides. Up in here, we're going to be mixing up a little potion of love, life, and liberation. Ingredients includes, but is not limited to, a handful of Black spirituality, a dash of mental health issues and how to heal from them, sprinkling in a little bit of Black history with a dollop of getting to know thyself. We're going to be stirring up the pot on all things Black, and this brew is lit and on the fire. So, as we go through this learning journey together, let's set our intentions to awaken the oppressed, address, and digress. Let's talk about it. If you are listening to my podcast on YouTube, on the platform of YouTube, I just wanted to ask you to make sure that you go ahead and like, subscribe, and leave me a comment in the comment section below. If you got any suggestions or anything like that, hit me up. You can also slide in my DMs on Instagram. I'm Lovespell_LVS888. And then if you want to send me an email for a more in-depth conversation, if you with that, then you can hit me up at lovespell.lvs888@gmail.com. Again, I appreciate all of your support, love, and admiration. I'm sending my love and blessings out to you. You can be your child's worst enemy. Your parenting can ruin your child all the way up into adulthood. You can create codependency and a fear of development in your child that only feeds your ego and your fear. Today's episode, we're going to talk about parenting beyond food, clothes, and shelter. Ask yourself, are you taking care of your child or growing them up? This episode is called Fuck Them Kids. Let's talk about it. Having a child is like getting a tattoo on your face. You better be committed. Elizabeth Gilbert. A child is the most precious energy in the universe because it is pure, innocent, and vital to our continuance of existence. So if this is the case, why do we so often be careless with the development of our child's mind, placing way more emphasis on a child's physical growth, outer appearance, and visual perception to others through academia and sports? More importantly, when we overbear, overindulge, undernourished based on our own insecurities, we create personality disorders. So we're going to talk about a few today. 1, the narcissist. 2, the borderline personality disorder. 3, the historic personality disorder. And 4, the dependent personality disorder. Oh yeah, you only knew about the narcissist, right? Let's learn about some disorders today and how we can prevent our children from falling victim to them based on our own parenting. Since most of us, you are pretty aware of a narcissist, we'll speak about that personality disorder first. Now, although we often assign narcissism to a male, it is not a male dominant trait. Usually we assign it to a male when they're doing distasteful or behaviors that we dislike. But females often exhibit narcissist personality disorders as well. So a narcissist was created solely during the growth phases of a childhood. This personality disorder is not a mental illness and is often so covert that the person who is on the outside looking in, it seems pretty normal to them. The narcissists themselves don't even identify with the personality traits of a narcissist. There is no medication, nor is there a cure, due to the fact that it is a flaw in the personality and it is not actually a mental illness. Narcissists range in levels from 1 to 10, and it is said that serial killers are level 10 narcissists. Usually this type of narcissism is bred out of extreme abuse or when a child is living in a very evil or devilish type of environment. Most people are not that far gone. I'll give you an example of one person that was, though. His name was Ted Bundy. He's a well-known serial killer. It is believed that Ted Bundy was conceived through ancestral rape. So his father or his grandfather was actually his father. His father slash grandfather suffered from mental illness. And they said that he was very violent and very high-tempered. So Ted Bundy grew up in a household with a very angry rapist father slash grandfather. But if you ask Ted Bundy, due to his narcissism, he would paint a pretty picture of his family life and his relationship with his family. Everything was peaches and creams and, fishing trips and, camping trips. But even the people around him that went to school with him and everything, it was one girl who went to school with him for 15 years, and she said that she watched him go from being the kid who was awkward and had a speech impediment and nobody would, he didn't fit in anywhere. And he just slowly developed this devilish behavior where he started off going after animals and, murking animals in the forest, and then moved up to picking on smaller children. I believe there was a story of him stripping them naked and torturing them in the forest. And this all stemmed from him living in a house that was extremely volatile and violent and aggressive. Now, most of us have encountered a narcissist, but not a Ted Bundy, not a level 10 narcissist. I would hope. Goodness, please. I hope no one runs into a serial killer. But we have encountered people who are physically abusive, people who are verbally abusive, mentally and emotionally manipulative to some degree. So some of the textbook traits of a narcissist is having a frail self-esteem. Now, this one's funny because a narcissist almost always has a frail, I wouldn't even say almost, they always have a frail self-esteem. A frail ego is what I would call it. But they mask it so heavily with their behavior that they will come off egoic, pompous, disrespectful, arrogant. You wouldn't be able to penetrate past all of that. I mean, if you're someone like me, you'll figure it out eventually. But a lot of times on the outside looking in, this person comes off as having the best self-esteem, feeling, they're in some high stature, even if they have nothing. Or they have no accomplishments, just up in high stature. And some of them will aspire to have great accomplishments so that they can consistently be showered with praise, because they need that type of feedback in order to not fall into the abyss of what their ego really, or what they're hiding under their ego. And that's that fragile, sensitive, I'm not good enough, I'm not the person they think I am, I'm an imposter, type of self-esteem. They have a deep need for attention. And like I said, that's kind of going back on the same thing. The attention is something that brings them what they can't provide for themselves. So that self-worth that a person has naturally or over time of developing yourself is something that they don't acquire. And what instead they acquire in order to fill that void is other people's praise. A narcissist in a room is the person who talks a lot about things that will get people's attention and have people saying, oh, that's nice and that's great, and that kind of behavior. It can go both ways, though. They can talk about something that's them being a hero in some situation, talk about being heroism regularly, or talk about their accomplishments on a regular basis and have the expectation that you'll all their grandeur or whatever. Or they'll talk about being a victim of something on a regular basis. And then you can give them the praise of how good they are of a person and how they don't deserve such treatment and blase blase. And that's feeding their ego as well. Feeding that fragile self-esteem. What they also will exhibit, and this one's way more covert, is resentment of others' success. Being jealous. Now, this behavior is frowned upon, so it's not something that you're going to get from a narcissist straight out. No, what'll happen is they'll talk negatively about the person in some other manner that doesn't have to do with the person's success. So it'll be somebody that you'll bring up or that they'll know or that they have a problem with, and they'll not say that they don't like the fact that they are becoming an entrepreneur, for example. No, they'll talk about this person's parenting or this person's, whatever else they can figure out to talk about, because of course it's very taboo to say that I don't like her because she's doing better than me. So you have to pick something else. But the person who consistently rags or talks about somebody who is doing better than them, that is a red flag. They also put their own needs before others. And then that's not the worst part, though. What's the worst part is that they demand for you to put their needs before you as well. It's okay for someone to put, well, we all need to do this. We all need to put our needs before other people's. Not to the point that you never do anything for anybody else or you never put anybody before you in any circumstance. But on a general level, in order to stay balanced within yourself, you should be putting yourself more above everyone else, not doing for everyone else and then leaving yourself on the back burner. But the expectation that everyone else that loves you or that you encounter must put you before them is textbook narcissism. And what will go further is that if you do not put them before you, then the narcissist will become a victim. The narcissist will shame you or make you feel like that you are being selfish, that you are being hurtful, that you are being not a team player. When it's a flip around or it's manipulation, because truthfully be told, that person is the one who is not being a team player by expecting for them to do for themselves and you to do for them too. They are consistently selfish, always putting themselves first. And then when you bring to their attention how you feel, what's going on, or what you're unhappy with, they're extremely dismissive. And they might just go to the point of blatantly ignoring other people's needs altogether. The level of narcissism is solely based on the extreme amount of lack within the childhood of their household, like their household during childhood. What they were neglected on or what they were left out of. Now, a narcissist. Okay, so during the development of a narcissist in a child, there are two types of households that create this type of person. One, it's the type of parenting where a child is loved by conditions. So this means if a child achieves a certain standard, and whether it be academia, sports, whatever the parent deems suitable for the child to achieve in. If that child achieves high success, the child is praised and treated well, and, that is considered love. But if a child does not achieve success, then the child is not praised, ignored, mistreated, or may even have things taken from them. So the child correlates that love is based conditionally on if they can achieve certain success, and has nothing at all to do with how they actually treat people, but what they do that people should be praising them for. So now they're correlating love to how people view them rather than how they actually are treating them. There's a second type of parent that creates a narcissist child, and that is another narcissist. So a narcissist parent will belittle, berate, and put down a child. A narcissist is usually someone who is doesn't have control over their emotions because they can't regulate their emotions because they don't act in it's not that they don't have emotions. It's just that they don't act in their emotions and they do not know how to deal with them. So then when they do encounter emotions, the only emotion that they can counteract that with is anger, irritability, because they can't navigate it correctly. They can't work on it. And what is that called? When a child cries, they can't self-soothe because they're not taught to deal in their emotions. They're taught to, set a goal, reach for success. And that is how people will love you. That is how people will like you. You know what I'm saying? That type of behavior. So they will be irritable in the household. And then they'll create these unachievable expectations for the child. So the child is continuously reaching and reaching and reaching for success, hoping to attain this certain type of success will get them this unconditional love, but only learning that in their household and in their life, love is only contingent upon the narcissist or the parent who believes that they've done well this time. That's an uneasy love situation. And the narcissist or the child creates this narcissistic behavior where they do the same thing onto others. That's funny because narcissists usually show up with the domestically violent situation. So I'm going to tell you a story. There's this guy that I have met, and he was quiet and known as a bad boy. Like, I'm really partial to those, or I was. I'm going to say was. I'm working on that. But he was known as a bad boy, and he was older, and he had this mysterious way about him. We started to talk, and then we started to date. And little by little, I was coming to a realization that I was falling victim to a pretty high level narcissist. He wasn't physically violent, but he was one step from it. And he was working on me the whole time that we were in the relationship, pushing my boundaries to see how far that he could go. So initially, it started off with him being jealous. There wasn't any kind of regular jealous. Like, I met guys that's just like, he better watch out. You better not touch my girl or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like little guy stuff or whatever, let you know. They're trying to let you know that they cuffing you. You know what I'm saying? If you know what that means. But this was more on the lines of, he wasn't going after the male or that guy better know. It was like, you better know kind of situation. And I remember now, I was thinking about the red flags. I'm thinking about them now. And I remember asking him about his last girlfriend and like what happened, how did that end? And one of the things he was like is like, oh, she was playing phone games. And I didn't really understand what that meant, like playing phone games. What does he mean? So I was thinking like maybe she had like somebody on the phone or whatever she was like talking to or whatever, something like that. That's what he was implying. So as time goes on in the situation or whatever, he's getting a little more bolder. So he's starting to go from being a little bit jealous to giving me small accusations, like, oh, why didn't you answer the phone? Like, who was you talking to, or who were you with? Kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I was at work. Or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of thing. Just pushing, just a little bit, pushing the envelope a little bit. And then he started to get a little worse or whatever. He started to full out accuse. Like, yeah, you know, like, I think you were talking to somebody, or I think you were, you know, doing this or that or whatever, like low key, but it wasn't like grand. Now, it got to the point that I think at one point it was like it was past red flag. It was like, at this point I started to realize, like, oh my God, I'm sitting in front of someone who is working. I don't know if they're working on me. Like, I was trying to figure it out, and I'm too inquisitive. Like, I say stuff past the amount of time where I should jump ship and run or whatever already. But I don't know. I have this dangerous mind that's so inquisitive about what's going on here. So I'm figuring out that this person is doing this. You know what I'm saying? I'm realizing, I'm like, okay, this is one of those guys that are like, he's trying to see how much he can mind trap and you know, like mind fuck me. Like, he's trying to see if he can be abusive. Like, this is tingent on abusive, you know? So he's accusing me of things. Like, I remember one time I woke up in the middle of the night and he was going through my phone. Now, I'm the type of girl that I'm not really a cheater. That's not really my thing. Or whatever. Like, if I create a relationship, now if I want to date multiple people, then that's what I'll do. But once I've decided that I'm going to be in a one-on-one situation, I will eliminate my others for, you know, tell my hoes to stand back and stand down. Basically, you know. But so there was nothing in my phone to go through, but this man was hell-bent on finding something. He was becoming obsessive about finding something to come for me for. Like, that was his whole aim. That was his whole workup in this relationship. So I remember he went through, he's older, so he went through my Instagram. And you know how anybody who has Instagram, there's like messages. You can message people in the DMs and it'll say like D for days, W for weeks or whatever, right? So it was like a message from a guy that I think I was meeting up with. And I don't even think it was a guy that I was actually dating. I think we had a meetup for some, I don't know, I'm always doing projects or something of the sort or whatever. You know, I'm a productive person. So it was like 90 weeks ago. And so he's like waking me up out of my sleep. I mean, scared the crap out of me out of my sleep. And he's like, what is this right here? What is this? What is this? You talking to niggas on Wednesday? Because it says W. On Wednesday, you told him you was on your way. And I'm like delirious. Like, what are you talking about? So finally, after I focused my eyes, I'm like, it says 90 weeks. He's like, no, it say Wednesday. I'm laughing about it now, but it was not funny. I was disturbed. I was like, this man's the straight psycho. Or what have you. And he was. Like, the story's going to get worse. The story's going to get worse. So he was a straight psycho. Or what have you. So I'm going back and forth with him. And I'm like, dude, if you're going to go through all of this, like, I'm going back to bed. Whatever you're emotional, you can go through my phone and have a good night, okay? But if you are upset, then you go in the corner and be upset because I'm going back to sleep. So in the argument, I flip over, I go back to sleep or whatever. Leave him with the phone so he can go sit up and click it all night. I mean, like literally sitting in the corner with the phone light against his face, just looking angry and disturbed about absolutely nothing, because I promise you it was nothing in that phone to be upset about. So, and I should have stopped talking to him then. That should have been, I mean, that was already red flag and I already knew he was a psycho. But, you know, I'm just young and naive and thinking, I don't know what I was thinking. But, you know, I'm just still going on with the situation. So it gets to a point where it becomes dangerous. It gets to a point where he is basically accusing me of something every day. I remember one day he contacts me and tells me that he was on I don't know if you guys are old enough and you are from the States, right? There's something called the party line. Now, the party line was something that it's like a phone number you call, and it's like group calling. And it'll be random randos on there. You don't even know who they are, but you all be chopping it up. And sometimes you like meet people on there, and it'll be like friends. And so you'll make friends and stuff like that. Like I remember, that's a whole nother story, but I remember trying to meet up with a guy off of there, and he like was hideous anyway. But that's another teenage story. But so he's like, he calls me, he's like, leaves me messages. He's calling me out my name. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? He's like, yeah, I got your number. I know what's up now. I know how you do me, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, what the hell? So he's blowing up my phone. I finally answer the phone and I'm like, what the hell is going on with you? Like, what are you talking about here? And he's like, yeah, I called the party line. I was on the party line. Now, why is he on the party line? I do not know. That part he refused to explain. But he says that he called the party line and there was a girl on the party line that sounded just like me doing phone sex. And he was calling me a phone sex hoe for the whole rest of the day. And I was like, so you're accusing me based on the sound of someone's going, yeah, I know your voice. That was you. Now, mind you, I have a full-fledged job. There's no reason for me to be selling phone, sexual, nothing on the party line. That's not even my get down. I don't have the fortitude, I can't not laugh. To be sitting up there having sex phoning, talking, or whatever you call it. I can't, So I'm like, okay, you're delusional, sir. And I just banged the phone in his face and let him call. Okay. Should have been the last straw, right? No, I'm still talking to this guy. So last straw. One day he comes by and we go, I don't know, I think we go to eat or whatever, something like that. And he's cool. He's acting cool, blase. We get back to his house and we're sitting out front. And before he's like, don't get out the car, blase. And he's like, I need to show you something. Let me see your phone. And I'm like, what the? Oh, here we go with the phone situation. So I'm like, here, because I know I don't have nothing in my phone. You're crazy. He goes through my phone and looks at, it was like a mess. One of the applications, I don't know if it was Instagram or it was I think it was Facebook, but it was one of the applications where it brings up a profile picture, like whatever profile picture you put on when you message me, that's the profile picture that'll show up. It's not a saved picture. It's just like the profile that you set up for your own messenger or whatever. This particular person had a picture of himself with no shirt on. Now, this guy is like, I don't even think I knew him. I think he had attempted to talk to me a while back, like send me a message. It was one of those messages was like, someone is requesting to speak to you. And I had never even approved to speak to this person. So this man is in like sectors of my phone that I don't even know about. So he pulls out the phone and he goes through and he's like, who the hell is this? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know. You're a fucking liar, like just going off or whatever. And then he pulls out a gun from his waistband and puts it on the floor of my car. So I don't know about y'all, but I'm from the hood and I'm like, oh, all right, okay. This is about to get dangerous. Like, I don't want to die over no dude, especially like it's not that serious. So, everything's racing through my mind. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? And I'm like, okay, bam. I just tell him like, well, what you gonna do with that? Like, oh no, I get irate. I cause the scene. I'm like, and he hurry up and puts it away or whatever. He was literally trying to intimidate me. That was the worst thing you could do. That was like the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you're gonna threaten to kill me over this? You know what I'm saying? So he gets out the car. Oh, I tell him to get out the car. So I don't know. Somehow he ends up getting out of the car. As soon as he gets out the car, I drive away, door wide open. It don't matter. It'll close on with the wind. I fly down the street or whatever, Bam. I go home. He is blowing up my phone. I promise that man called me over 100 times in one day. I literally let the call log continue to keep logging each call. He left me messages, and then the voicemails were so insane. They were back and forth. It was like one moment he was calling me all out my name, talking about how he was going to shoot me and some more. And then he called me like an hour later. Not even an hour. He called me 30 minutes later and asked me what kind of toothpaste I was using because his mom wanted to use the same toothpaste. It was insane. Then 15 minutes later, he called me again and be like, come outside. I'm about to have my homegirl come kick your ass. Like, it was insane. It was insane. Now, I said all of that to say this. He was like level 5 a narcissist or whatever. His whole aim during the relationship was not to actually conduct a relationship with me. No. One, he threw a pity party most often. He always talked about how he was, he didn't have money. Mind you, this man had plenty of money or whatever, but he always made it seem like he was so broke and he was doing so bad and woe is me, my life's in shambles. And then, but you're a good guy and blah, blah, blah. He wanted that attention so bad. Like, he craved it. And then that wasn't enough. He got off on the fight, the degrading, arguing, accusing you of, doing something. Like, he got off on that. Like, it was I don't know, it was some kind of a trigger for him. And the only thing that I could think is that him and his mother although she was alive and he would often go to her house, they were quite estranged and very hostile to each other. They often talked to each other like they were enemies. And so what I'm guessing is that when it came to him and a female entity, his way of loving another female was to be aggressive and violent and look for betrayal on a regular basis because he just insisted that it be there. It was just part of him having a relationship. He was extremely insecure and just wrapped in this narcissistic cycle. And I mean, it was the worst or whatever. But yeah. Usually, people who create narcissistic children are some of the highly neglectful parents. The odds of you creating a narcissist child is slim, but then again, I don't know because there's so many narcissistic people in the world. I would have to say maybe it's more likely than not. Maybe we overlook how we're parenting or if we're even parenting at all. Maybe our insistence on having high achieving children or going after our own set of goals is estranging our children from actual love. The problem is that man will never have a productive relationship with a female ever. He is ruined. And he has female children of his own that he treats in a negative manner as well. Possibly creating new mini narcissists. We have to start looking at what we're doing in our households beyond buying clothes and shoes, beyond showing off pictures on Facebook and Instagram, because we are creating little monsters. Unhappy people. And is that what you wanted to bring in the world? Someone who will perpetually be unhappy but pretend that they are happy, or people who will make other people unhappy so that they can have some happiness because that's the only way they can acquire it. I don't know. Narcissism is not the only disorder that is created by mediocre parenting. I'm going to call it that, mediocre parenting. Another personality disorder is called the borderline personality disorder. It's not narcissism, but it can have some similar traits. The textbook traits are abandonment issues, the kind that are so deep that you're consistently trying to stop it from happening. These are people who get into friendships with people where they're always calling, like to the point that they become annoying. Or they always want to be around them to the point, or always trying to stop them from, oh, you're not going to leave me, huh? You're not going to, that kind of friendship where it's like they want to be friends with you so bad that and they'll do almost anything to stay friends with you so bad that it becomes disgusting. They have little to no control of their emotions. They usually have no direction and no sense of self. That is the reason why that they're holding on to relationships, because relationships gives them some kind of fulfillment that they can't find within their own being, their own selves. They cannot keep connections or friendships or relationships. So it pretty much, which is crazy, is because it pretty much does the exact opposite. You cling hold of something so tight that it fights to get away. They do not trust people and can be suicidal. Which is also interesting because it's like you want these friendships or these relationships so bad that you cling to them, but at the same time you don't trust the people that you're clinging to. And then this wanting something so drastically and having a lack thereof, or feeling like it never is going to come to me, I'm never going to have it or whatever, I just might as well kill myself kind of woe is me type of attitude. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a bad cycle to be in. So this personality disorder is not something that they can tell you exactly what it comes from. But they are aware that restricting a child's ability to express themselves emotionally does play a big role in the factor. I do think about young boys when it comes to this, and how often we tell a boy that they're not able to cry or they shouldn't cry. The fact that we don't teach a young male any other emotion besides anger and aggression. So we do not teach a young male how to navigate the other emotions that they have, and then we are upset with them when they do not provide emotions or show emotions and circumstances dealing with relationships, friendships, stuff like that. There are a lot of females that I have encountered that have a borderline disorder personality. And what I think really is that females are often told that we're too emotional. And in a world where independence can be vital to someone's survival in certain circumstances, a female might become extremely masculine and, put on the back burner their emotions to the point that they don't know how to navigate them properly as well. So it gets to a point where they create a personality disorder. And it's like all these emotions when it comes spilling out, all of this feeling when it comes spilling out, all of this connectivity, the ability to connect to people or wanting to connect to people. And you want to and you desire it so much that it becomes awkward. It's like the kid in the room that wants to be the other kid, the popular kid's friend. So he walks up and he's like, hey, what's up? Kind of thing, And then the other kids shun him. And so now the kid is angry and now he hates what he wanted, because he doesn't know how to let it come to them or just be in the space or accept the fact that maybe, those friends or those people that you want to be friends with are not your peoples. You know what I'm saying? There's another one that comes up. It's called I keep saying history. It's not history. It's histrionic personality disorder. Now, this one happens a lot. And let me be clear. These disorders are not just mid-level behaviors. It's not like, oh, I want to be your friend. And no, it's when it's extreme. It's when it's to the point that it affects people's everyday lives. When people become so wrapped up in it that it's consumed them, and their work environment, their living arrangements, their happiness all revolves around these particular behaviors, the losses, the gains, and the cycle of losing and gaining kind of situation, So histrionic personality disorder is having a deep need to be approved by others to the point that it affects your everyday life. This is an attention whore to the 10th power. In any setting, they feel uncomfortable if they are not the center of attention. They need to entertain people constantly. They dress sexually or provocative for attention. They're easily influenced by other people well into adulthood. And they usually come off as fake and shallow when dealing with others. This disorder is brought upon by parents that yell consistently or are overly dramatic and inappropriate in outside settings. The child that lives in that type of household does not know that behavior is inappropriate. And by the time they reach adulthood, it becomes second nature to them as well. I've met people who have this behavior. Actually, I have a relative, I believe, that has this behavior. This person is extremely dramatic. I mean, like, to the point that sometimes I don't even understand what's going on. Like, when did it get this far? And the sad part is, yes, the person's child is the same. I think the person's child, I don't know if they're worse. I don't know, because I don't deal with the parent as much as I deal with the child. But yeah, it almost seems irrational, the dramatization behind something. Like when the person gets upset, it's like a whole lights, camera, action, drop the red curtain. I'm about to act a nut. Nobody's going to understand why kind of situation. I don't know, but it's a very, I wouldn't say crippling, but it creates a lonely lifestyle because this type of person cannot foster good relationships with people because their antics are not amusing to other people and it's embarrassing in public. Okay, so the last but not least personality disorder is the dependent personality disorder. I mean, you can pretty much say it in a name, and I know many of us have encountered this type of person. This is where the person feels needy or weak. They cannot function on a day-to-day basis without people helping them. They will allow other people to step in and run parts of their lives for them simply because they can't. They will participate in things that they don't like just to keep their support, or things that make them uncomfortable or wrong. They're afraid of independence. They are not self-confident. And they admire others for what they feel they cannot do. This is brought on by codependency. Usually a parent's need to be needed turns into parenting a child into fear of independence. They teach the child that they will not do well without them. And they need them to be running certain parts of their lives. Now, a parent's job is supposed to be to grow a person. And I always use the difference between like taking care of somebody and growing somebody up. Let me make sure you guys know what I mean by that. Taking care of something is making sure that they have the basic amenities and maybe a few extras. You know what I'm saying? It's the clothes, it's the shoes, it's the combing of the hair, it's them looking nice, it's the birthday parties, it's the going out of town trips, it's that kind of thing. It's the making sure they do their schoolwork and they're educated on a basic level. You know what I'm saying? But it is not the development of the mind and soul. It's only the development of the body. Growing someone up is the equivalent to me of taking care of a plant. It is the nourishment, the love, the light, the water, the talking to, the extra little things that turn that little seedling into a full blooming tree. That tree not only has grown up, but now bears fruit to be able to replenish and offer new seedlings to the world. That is growing up a child. If you are creating a child or your parenting is stifling the independence of a child, what you are doing is taking a seedling, allowing the tree to grow, watering it, and giving it light. But using the wrong soil so that it does intentionally, let's make sure we know that, intentionally, so that that tree never bears fruit. This is the most selfish, I'll say, besides the narcissist. But the narcissist that's a harder thing because most narcissists don't even really equivocate themselves to narcissism. So that's harder. But the codependent parent is the most selfish parent out of the group. Because they're not parenting that child, or they're not growing that child up for the child. They are doing it for themselves. They usually had a child for themselves. They were probably lonely or in the midst of some things decided that they don't want to be lonely. They find some accomplishment out of taking care of their adult children or doing things for them. She can't do this, so I do it for her. Oh, she would never be able to do that, or he would never be able to do that, so I do it for them. They don't know, so I just do it for them. That is not, your job is to make sure that they learn to know. That is your job. So if they don't know, that is a direct statement about your parenting. Once you have a child, you have lived at least a chunk of your own life. And so there's a guarantee, or there's a mind state, or there's a certain ideology that you will perish before your child. So what you're doing is crippling your child to the point that when you do perish, your child will be left inadequate to live their own lives. All so that you can feed your need to be needed, your ego, your inability to accomplish anything other than having children. Oh yeah, I'm dragging you if you are this parent. A child that does not know how to be employed, how to be an entrepreneur, how to be a citizen of the society they live in, how to pay bills, how to use their cognitive development or their cognitive skills, their reasoning and their logic in order to navigate their own lives, how to be non-fearful of making steps and strides in a direction that they want to go in. If you are not pushing your child to be those things, then I don't care how many clothes you put on that baby. I don't care how many pictures you take, and I don't care how many birthday parties you have and how much you spent on them. You are a piss poor parent. And I'm dragging you. Do better. Accomplish something yourself and let your children accomplish their own lives. So, I say that to say that a parent is the foundation of a child's development. If a parent is too much of anything, then they run the risk of unraveling or unleveling the foundation that will in turn create an unbalanced child. How unbalanced depends on how much a parent deprives a child of his or her own right to be themselves. Yes, a parent must clothe, feed, and house a child. It is even safe to say that a child who is nourished in academia and sports or the arts brings about a level of balance too. But what parents tend to forget is a child's emotional state, balance between fear and happiness, and how to navigate those emotions, their self-worth, realistic self-worth, not attached to achievements, yet being able to achieve because of them is the challenge. So if you are a parent, I challenge you. Ask yourself, what is your child worried about? What does your child dislike about themselves? And why or what do they love about themselves? Your child is not here so that you can get attention off of their achievements. They're not here to feed your need to be needed or your ability to show off what you've accomplished. The question is, are you growing your children up? Or do you need to do the growing up? Ooh, I hope y'all ain't mad at me because I surely came for some of y'all out there. I already know I did. And if you feel some type of way, you can run me your comments. Drop your name in my inbox or hit me up on, Instagram or Gmail and tell me how you really feel. But I care less. Anywho, thank you for listening to Lovespell's podcast. I am Lovespell, giving you gratitude and appreciation for your listening here. I feel blessed to have had you as my guest as we stirred up the pot on all this mess. We've taken the time to awaken the oppressed, address. Now it's time to digress. I'll be talking off your ear on the next episode. It's bye for now.